just enjoying listening to the sound of the rain. It's a long, hot, dry, fiery summer. And this is music to our ears and cooling to our senses. A couple of weeks ago, a few of us, myself, Ajahn Sudanto was visiting from the Northwest, and Debbie, Tansampano, Samanarachitapala went down to teach our annual Thanksgiving retreat down in the Santa Cruz, Watsonville area. And when we left, there was the Paradise Fire was still going, burning over some miles to the east of us, and the whole Bay Area, the drive down from here all the way down to where we were, was socked in smoke as it had been since the fires started, really. And lots of news articles and concern and people's comments of not only the devastation from the fire, the loss of houses and lives, but also the ongoing problems with air quality. The amount of smoke was irritating to a number of people. So it was much in the news and much in our experience as we were driving down in the first few days of the retreat. Then it started finally to rain, late season start, but it started to rain while we were down there. I was following the news bits, just the headlines a little bit during the retreat, just every now and then. And it was, experiencing the rain and the clearing of the air and the freshness that was coming finally from that, reflecting, well, the fires must be going out, finally, put a dampening effect on the heat and the dryness and the damage. And feeling good and relieved about that for many reasons. And clued into the news headlines, expecting to see something like, rain has started, fires are out, air is clear. And I didn't see that, and maybe there was some of that somewhere along the line, but what I saw was something along the lines of forecast rain, possible mudslides, flood warnings, those kinds of things, particularly in the fire area that had been affected. And I thought, wow, it's from one disaster to a potential another one, without even any recognition of, clean air, no more fires. It was just noticing, and I don't think, at least I didn't hear any more, that there were any devastating mudslides in the fire area. Maybe there were, but I didn't see them in the news. But just kind of thinking, wow, this is the nature of not only the media, but the media kind of responds to what it is the way that our minds usually go, and tend towards taking note of those things which excite the mind, or ways that it supports our attention towards in a sense, towards the difficulties, the problems, the negative aspects of our life. How the mind so easily goes to that, and unless we train it well, tend to skirt over or only quickly acknowledge something that is good, positive, pleasant. unless it's extremely noticeable, then we might pay attention to it a bit longer and have some sense of some sense of rejoicing or gladness. But the tendency is, and the media picks up on it, of the human mind, or at least of many of the human minds, is to be caught up in seeing, not always seeing the good things, and more readily able to see difficulties, problems. And we can reflect on how that affects us, how that kind of tendency of mind, what is the effect that it has in the heart. And just on alms round today too, just hearing some sad news. A friend of ours who lives down in Redwood Valley, who's probably going to be moving, and thinking, oh, that's too bad, another change, another loss of a friend, and some of the difficulties some other people were having on the alms round. Near tragedies of a person's house being almost burned down in this more recent Redwood Valley fire that wasn't a forest fire and was well contained, but she almost lost her place, and luckily didn't. Was grateful, but just this ongoing set of problems and difficulties, and driving down Tom Kai Road back up to the monastery from alms round, and you're just noticing the devastation still from last year's fire here, and just reflecting on the capriciousness of nature and how we're not safe, and the disruption in people's lives, and how many of them had to readjust, and our own near miss of things. These were thoughts going through my mind as we were driving back, and the memories of the things on alms round, and all of a sudden realizing again, oh, okay, look at that, that's where the mind is going. And then reflecting back on the alms round a little more, and remembering also that there was actually an incredible number of really beautiful interactions with people along the way, and receiving the alms at different places, and actually remembering that I was feeling a tremendous amount of gratitude as people were offering alms. Particularly today, I was trying to really tune into the whole act of generosity and being part of that, and the sense of happiness that was coming up for me as people were giving and making their offerings, and I made a purposeful intent on most of the alms round to really notice that feeling inside of myself, that sense of gladness about being part of that, and a sense of gratitude. And as I was doing that, I think probably a smile would come up on my face, and people would see that, and then they would smile, and it's kind of a catching kind of a thing back and forth. And so, but on the way back, I was sort of forgetting all of that as my mind was moving towards the difficulties and the problems and the negativities that one can encounter in the world, and just reflecting how easy it is to switch back and forth, and if one isn't careful, the slide into negativity can be the trend. And how different times people come to the monastery. Sometimes, many times, most of the time actually, people coming to give and support and share in the joy in the practice. And then every now and then people coming expecting something, wanting something, or feeling critical about something at the monastery, and just noticing the difference. Depends on where people are at. We all go through all of these things at different times, but reflecting on what is it that actually feels better in the mind. Those moments of appreciation and generosity and kindness, and remembering those, reflecting on those, or the disappointments, the difficulties, the problems, the issues. We're a very problem-oriented culture. We tend to see the problems and things rather than the goodness, no matter what it is that we're in. So just really reflecting on and going back and forth in my own mind, and thinking of an issue or a difficulty versus thinking of a beautiful situation, and just noticing what the effect was in the mood, just the affect, the raw mood in the mind. And of course, everybody knows the answer, the conclusion is preferring the more positive energy from that kind of reflection. It was quite a long time, many years ago, that there was a bit of an interest in the community in nonviolent communication, and we had a facilitator come for a weekend to guide us through some training and exercises in this practice of nonviolent communication, and learned a lot. Really enjoyed that. It was a very, very interesting weekend, and one of the exercises I remember that she had us do was presenting a certain scenario, a conversation, and we would break off into dyads, into two people to have a conversation around a specific topic, or it started out as a role play in a specific situation, and we had to practice giving answers, responding to this other person with different intentions or different motivations, different frames of mind. One being trying to respond to the situation, pretending that you're in a very critical, judgmental, negative, angry state of mind, versus adopting the role of being, understanding and clear and honest, but gentle and skillful in how we responded to the particular situation. So we were role-playing different scenarios back and forth, adopting one of those two attitudes. And it was just so noticeable to everyone how challenging it was to say the right thing in a skillful way from a sense of well-wishing and kindness, and that it took work and consideration, and how easy it was to kind of just slide off into blaming or criticizing or feigning anger or sarcasm or criticalness, and how easy that rolled off the tongue. And I found that just so fascinating to compare and contrast the two as we were practicing through them, and just noticing this is where our habituation has staked its claim. One of the teachings from one of the Buddhist discourses has a line in it that is talking about how to two kinds of thought, I think is the name of the sutta, and developing thoughts of simplicity and kindness and non-cruelty versus their opposites, and the advantages, of course, of doing that, and the line in it that says, whatever one thinks and ponders about frequently becomes the inclination of the mind. So the heartening teaching that we can retrain it, we can retrain the mind. It doesn't always have to slide off into the more unwholesome or unskillful thoughts. There is the possibility to train the actual ways that we think and look at and perceive the world, what we put our attention on, and notice that it really changes the quality of our life. it actually reprograms that affective state underneath, so that it becomes one more of well-being than one of fault-finding or negativity. We have the capacity through changing the way we look at the world, what we put our attention on, and how we speak and act, and that really can transform the mind. So a lot of our practice is recognizing when we fall into the habitual patterns. If we do that, maybe there are some people who do that less, which is great, naturally. But for many of us, we have to retrain ourselves consciously. And that's a lot of what the training in the path is all about. How to wisely reflect, how to put appropriate attention into our minds, what we choose to look at, what we choose to think and ponder on, becomes the nature of our mind. So qualities like goodness and generosity, well-being, all the positive aspects of human life that we can see, experience, reflect on, we try to bring those more into the fore, bring them into our conscious experience, very, very directly, very pointedly, and with a lot of effort, good effort, joyful effort to bring those states of mind up over and over again. Also recollecting from alms round today, one very joyful experience and reflection that came up, in addition to all the well-wishing and usual nods of friendliness that we get from people at the places we stop. And there were plenty of them today, but one in particular stood out in that one of the places we receive offerings from, it's probably some 6-8 weeks ago, the owner of one of the places that we stop at, the owner of that business, had come out and was making her usual offerings. And she mentioned that one of her employees actually felt uncomfortable with giving offerings to us herself, because we were of a different religion, and she just didn't feel comfortable participating in that and didn't want to do that if the owner wasn't there. Sometimes the owner was away, and this person just didn't feel comfortable making offerings. So the owner was just expressing that to us and saying, well, if we ever come and she, the owner, isn't there, then perhaps we could just quietly move on. And that was, we heard that, and it was a little bit hard to do, because outside the shop there's a reflection on the window, and you can't really see in and see who's there very easily, but you can see it enough. And so I think we passed the word along to everybody. Okay, well, if this situation happens, then don't hang out there for very long. Just keep moving. And so as I was walking up there today, wondering what might be found, and best we could see, first when we looked in the window with the reflection, all I could see was a person that I hadn't seen before, an unknown person, and I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do, whether they were going to offer or not, and I did not see the owner anywhere. So we hung out for just a minute or two, and then I saw the employee who had expressed her wish not to make the offering, and still didn't see the owner, so my immediate thought was, okay, time to go, time to turn around, and started to do that. But then one of the other people on the alms round said that he saw one of the people, the fellow who was there, who I hadn't seen before, starting to put some offerings into a box to give to us. So turned around and decided to wait to see about this. And in a few minutes, actually, the woman who was uncomfortable giving offerings came out with 2 boxes of offerings and another thing to give to us, and with a smile on her face. And she said, "Oh, sorry to keep you waiting," and offered the offerings to us, and politely waited while we gave our blessing. I wasn't sure whether she would want a blessing or not, but she stood there and was gently smiling the whole time, and made the offering, and then turned back, went into the store. And I was just so moved, so pleased to see that whatever discomfort she had had before, in some way was overcome, and was able to come and make an offering. And it was just a real moving testament to, the goodness in human beings. People overriding their questions or doubts or discomfort to do something good, to do something generous, to do something kind-hearted. It's a universal language that you can feel. People feel good when something like that happens, and it made me feel really good too. And so just trying to remember those kinds of things, reflecting on those, bringing those up when a negativity or a doubt or a criticism starts to grow and proliferate in the mind, to bring up these random acts of kindness into the heart, and just to see the difference. What does that feel like? Oh, what a relief to set aside the tendency towards seeing, the negative, and replace it with something that feels gentle and beautiful and open-hearted. So we have the choice, really, how we want to view the world, how we want to experience the world. And it doesn't mean that we won't ever experience difficult states of mind or unpleasant experience. We're always going to be experiencing some sort of unpleasantness. It's a 50-50 world here. But what we dwell on, is a different thing. We can experience an unpleasant situation and either grab onto it and absorb into it and proliferate with it, or we can feel it, release it, let it pass, and turn our minds back towards something that's uplifting. So just recollecting that these teachings are not only aiming. Sometimes it's easy to get kind of caught up in the first noble truth of there is suffering and we have to recognize it, see the cause, and practice the path to let go of it. And this is, of course, the core of our teaching. But part of that process is also, it's not just seeing the suffering and the dukkha, it's reflecting on and seeing how we can transform our minds to really deepen our understanding of where suffering arises. And it's the suffering not just that's inherent in a 50-50 world, the unpleasantness, which we won't escape, but the reactive suffering that we don't have to engage in. We can realize that through developing positive qualities and paying attention to the goodness in the world that acts as a basis for softening the mind, gladdening the mind, opening the heart, in such a way that as we reflect on the nature of the world and how we create this optional suffering, and then the path to relinquishing that mode of operation, but using the positive aspects of our experience as a ground to explore things like that. Yeah, the Buddha talks about the teachings as beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end. And we can reflect on that too, with a sense of appreciation and well-being at how it feels as we pick up the initial parts of the practice through precepts, reflecting on how we can bring peace and happiness to ourselves and to the world through non-harming, not taking advantage of each other, respecting each other's property and livelihoods, and respect for life and the well-being of others. Right in the beginning, we experience a sense of beauty and appreciation from just the simplicity of following the precepts. Living a more skillful life, trying to tread lightly in the world, and reflecting on that in the sense of well-being that comes from being able to be in the world that way. What a safe haven that creates for folks, just like people who come here and join in with us in following precepts and respecting the world around us. And people sense that, feel that when they come here. And we certainly sometimes have to bring it up and remember that, we live in a very special place that guards that kind of well-being in how we treat each other. Beautiful in the middle as we develop the practice and the meditation and start developing the meditation, letting go of some of the underlying tendencies that are hindrances in our practice, reflecting on the good things, wise attention to the positive, the skillful, the beautiful, and allowing a sense of peace and stillness to enter into the heart. The practice of samadhi, developing that kind of quality of settledness, peacefulness, and reflecting on how good that feels and how fortunate we are to be in an environment that's conducive to that and encourages that, teaches that, and the opportunity to practice that throughout the day. Beautiful in the middle. And then as we learn more about the path of the practice, the teachings on wisdom, development of discernment, and seeing the nature of the mind, the nature of our lives, and really deeply understanding in many different ways the Four Noble Truths in a gradual way that's taught very skillfully by the Buddha to gradually lead to this sense of understanding and relinquishment of the ways we create suffering for ourselves and for others, with the potential, the hope of being able to get a glimpse and eventually at some point in our existences to let go completely of suffering and the cause of suffering, to realize the goal of the practice. So the complete freedom of heart, liberation. So we can reflect on the potential of that, beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end, all the way through, and use that to uplift the mind, even if we haven't gotten there yet, or aren't very close in our own estimation anyway. We can reflect on the potential and have faith, develop a sense of smart faith through confidence and practicing little by little and seeing the results. And be very grateful that we have that opportunity here. And just reflecting on the goal sometimes, even though it may seem kind of remote at times, the goal of Nibbana. There's one of the recollections that the Buddha encourages, part of the 10 recollections. This one is the Upasamanusati, reflection on the peace, particularly the peace of Nibbana. Just bringing it up as a conscious reflection, even though we may not be directly knowing it, directly experiencing it at that moment, to consider and reflect on what that might feel like. There's not a lot of talk in the suttas about the goal itself, other than descriptors of what the mind feels like as it touches the unconditioned. Because it's hard to describe in words that which is beyond the conceptual realm. Words work in concepts, and words work together, and something that's beyond that is hard to describe in words. But just reflecting on some of the ways that the Buddha describes it as the ultimate peace, beyond a normal kind of worldly happiness, and even beyond very sublime states of consciousness and meditation that one can attain. That the peace of Nibbana is of a whole different order. Lots of descriptors like the ultimate bliss, freedom from craving, freedom from agitation, freedom from any kind of negativity, freedom from anxiety and fear, a sense of confidence, the supreme kind of confidence, the supreme kind of peace of heart. These kind of descriptors we can reflect on. Well, what would that feel like? And just sometimes repeating those words and reflecting on it brings a sense of ease and a sense of inspiration. That there are these words that describe a realization that is a permanent transformation of experience of our lives. Once we are able to let go of that which obstructs that kind of seeing, kind of knowing. So it is possible. And to, just bring it up into the heart for reflection. What might it be like? What might it be like to feel that kind of unshakable peace? That's something I want to spend more time thinking about. There's a couple of lines we chant in one of our chants, the highest blessings. Although in contact with the world, unshaken the mind remains. It's a description of Nibbana. Unshaken the mind remains. Beyond all sorrow, spotless, pure of heart, pure of mind, spotless, secure. They who live by following this path know victory wherever they go. Every place for them is safe. So a place of safety, place of refuge, no more sorrow, at least in the sorrow, the optional forms of dukkha we don't have to experience anymore. We can let that go and be confident, secure, and beyond all sorrow, spotless, secure. Never again to fall prey to these negativities, hindrances, and the suffering that we can put ourselves through when we see the world through our old habits and patterns, but gradually training the mind through positive reflection and appreciation, developing the skillful qualities to the point where we can see clearly and relinquish, let go of the ways that we create difficulty. So just remembering, we have the choice. We can choose where we want to put our attention, what we think about, what we reflect on, how we view the world, what we bring into any situation, and work towards retraining, reconfiguring our responses, and remembering as often as we can to look clearly around us, the people we're with, even when we're experiencing negative situations or unpleasant situations, whether it's with people or events, to open the mind, to broaden the awareness, to include, and then to actively focus on the goodness, all that's happening out there that brings a sense of gladness and peace to the heart. So we have that ability. So I'll leave that for this evening's reflection. Okay. So tonight's our half moon lunar observance. We have the opportunity to continue practicing into the night. There's also an Upasaka day tomorrow in the afternoon. I think most people know that, with some afternoon teachings starting at 1 o'clock on contemplative aspects, how to use the teachings on anatta, not self, for contemplation. So if there are people who might want to come to that, and then feel free to truncate the night as you wish, get some rest. So people who want to continue on through the evening are also welcome to do that. And if assuming that there will be some people, there should be tea refreshments at midnight to help through the vigil. Leave it there.